Shelter Animals Count national database says helping keep pets, especially dogs, out of overcrowded shelters is especially vital right now as shelters across the country continue to struggle. Everything from overcrowding, illnesses, euthanasia rates, vet shortages. Problems are adding up for animal shelters across Texas, including here in the DFW. And on today's Ask the Expert, Maura Davies with the SPCA of Texas joins us in the KRLD Zoom room. Thanks so much for the time, Maura. I appreciate it.
Thank you for reaching out.
Curious, Maura, would you say that our animal shelters are experiencing a crisis right now?
Yes, and it's across the country. It's not just in North Texas. Animal shelters across the entire United States are completely full. There are, of course, a few folks that still do have some room. Animal shelters continue to take a look at what is going on. And like you said, it's a very complex situation that has a lot to do with the things that people outside the animal welfare industry are also facing, and it all just compounds into a perfect storm. So yep, it's tough.
Let's start first here with just the animals that are coming to the shelter right now. You guys have seen a huge increase in puppies and kittens, I hear.
We sure have. We haven't seen anything like this. I haven't seen anything like this in more than 15 years. I've spoken with a couple of colleagues. They kind of feel the same way. It's a couple of people said they haven't seen who predate me to the industry. I've only been here for a couple of decades, but folks who've been here in the industry longer have said that it's been more like it's been 20 years since we've seen this many animals. So it's hard because I know the public wants to help, but the biggest way people can help right now is to adopt, donate, and I know that is increasingly difficult in this tough economy and all the other things going on.
One of the issues with when you have puppies and kittens means that those animals were not spayed or neutered. And that's also a tough thing right now with a shortage of vets.
Yes, there's been an ongoing shortage of veterinarians, and that's a really complex issue all on its own. It's kind of tough. It's becoming a veterinarian is a very rigorous process. It takes years of training. A veterinarian is a doctor for animals. Seems kind of counterintuitive to actually have to say it that way, but veterinarians are skilled people who work hard to earn their credentials. And even at animal shelters, at low-cost clinics, at private veterinarians everywhere, everybody is seeing this. Fewer and fewer veterinarians have come out of veterinary schools who had smaller class sizes to begin with. That education is incredibly expensive. The student debt mounts very, very fast and goes very, very high. Also during the pandemic, my understanding is that a lot of veterinarians took the opportunity to either retire or take a break. And then there were all of the difficulties with having face-to-face interactions of any kind during the pandemic. So a lot of people out there talk about having a harder time getting pets in, appointments are tougher. It's just, and everybody's costs have gone up for everything from vaccines to all kinds of supplies. They're more expensive for veterinarians to buy. So it just, all of that compounds and compounds.
And, with that cost, not everyone can keep up with the medical costs sometimes for certain animals that might have medical issues. May not just be about spay or neutering, but if you have an aging pet that can cause, the money that you're spending to go up, not just on food and, treats. So you're now spending money on whatever medications that might need, certain treatment, or allergies is a big thing that we've been seeing as well. And all of that cost. So have you also seen an increase in people surrendering animals?
There is that national data that does show over the past 2 years, intake has gone up, particularly among stray intake. The data that I'm looking at here, Shelter Animals Count, is such a great resource. It's a national database that animal welfare organizations, animal shelters like us contribute to so that we can see what these trends look like. So Shelter Animals Count has taken a look at the data, and just talking about stray intake from January through May of this year, there's a 10% increase in stray dog intake compared to last year, and 30% intake compared to 2021. Cats only saw a 1% decrease, or cats did see a 1% decrease in stray intake compared to 2022. It's just the dogs are the critical portion. So it's yes, we're seeing, as an industry, seeing more animals. The SPCA of Texas brings in stray animals through unincorporated Dallas County and Ellis County. And we are so full with those animals coming into our shelters and animals coming in through our animal cruelty investigations efforts. we are currently not able to take in owner-surrendered animals. We are just too full.
And one of the things that we also see is just when you do get the animals in your shelter, which a lot of you are dealing with overcapacity as it is, you also have to keep that population fed and in good health. And there's been a big battle ongoing with different types of illnesses for dogs.
Yes, indeed. Last summer, I definitely, I know that there are animal welfare organizations all over North Texas and around the country too, but here we've seen illnesses like distemper, canine influenza rolling around to different animal welfare groups, different organizations, different municipal groups for the past 2-3 years. Last summer was particularly difficult for everybody, but it's not really much better. Everyone in the animal welfare world that I know is always concerned about illness. And the biggest thing there, and something that people can do, we can stop illness if we get animals that are vaccinated. So vaccinate. That's something that I've been talking about for more than 20 years. It's going to be difficult to eradicate things like distemper, like parvo, but vaccination can help. The tough thing about canine influenza is that vaccination isn't always the ticket. And there has been a shortage of canine influenza vaccines. So again, another complicated topic. It's just like complication upon complication upon complication. So yeah.
When we talk about vaccines, I mean, one of the best resources for pet owners to get vaccines is to go out to their local animal shelters that will oftentimes provide it at a discount. Is that also more difficult for you guys to do, to provide to these communities a free vaccines or discounted vaccines to them because of maybe shortage of donations?
Well, we had our last free vaccine event on June 11th, I believe it was in June, and we look forward to having more. Right now, it's difficult to have them, not necessarily because of cost, but because it's so hot outside. So to have those large scale events, it's really difficult to find a place where we can have an indoor air conditioned situation. But our clinic continues to book low cost vaccine appointments and spay neuter to the point where we are full weeks and weeks in advance. So there are a lot of other wonderful groups out there doing spay and neuter, doing vaccines. I really encourage everyone who is looking, if your dog is not spayed or neutered, please look and look and look. There are tons of partners. We list our partners on our page. Spay Neuter Network is one partner we work with. They do a lot of great work too. A lot of folks out there are doing the great work of vaccinating, spaying and neutering animals. And that those two things are so incredibly critical. We're all doing the best we can to make it as low cost as possible. But I will tell you, there is also a shortage of funding for spay and neuter, for surgeries for animal welfare organizations. That's kind of decreased in the last several years. So that can make it more difficult, but we're all still doing as much as we can, doing the best we can.
Let's talk about ways to alleviate the overcrowding at our animal shelters. Obviously, adoption, number one, but there are other ways, and one of those might be sending animals up north where they might have more room. That used to be a really great alternative, but it seems like that's also starting to be a little bit more difficult.
It does feel like that in the animal welfare industry. Of course, groups talk to each other, and transports have been going on, and there have been so many animals transported, which is great. For example, just last month, the SPCA of Texas transported 210 cats and 23 dogs to shelters in the Northeast, the Northwest. And so far, just this year, since January 1, we've transported 1,720 cats and 174 dogs. But that we don't know how long there's going to be space. So it's a good thing if it's available, but the last thing we want to do is take animals from an area where there's a huge influx and send them to another area where there's a huge influx. That's just not a solution.
Let's talk about another option that nobody ever wants to ever have to deal with, but euthanasia is a real thing. There have been some statistics that have shown that about 82% of animals in DFW shelters were able to be saved last year in 2022, but that still leaves almost 20% of the animal population to be put down. How do animal shelters make that difficult decision?
Every shelter is different. Municipal animal shelters, our partners at Dallas Animal Services, feel the pain there. Euthanasia is always incredibly difficult. Different groups have different ways that they go about making those decisions, but especially for a municipal shelter, those that are required often by law to take in any animal that they get, they have to make those difficult choices. And I wish there was an easier solution than to ask the public for help. Just again, looking at that shelter animals count data, the getting dogs out of the overburdened shelters is so important right now, because more dogs are entering shelters than are leaving. And that euthanasia rate, the non-live outcome rate for dogs, has nearly doubled from 5.6% nationally to 10% nationally, comparing Q1 of 2021 to 2023. So like you said, that's nearly twice as many dogs not leaving shelters alive just the first months of the year compared. So shelters like the SPCA of Texas, we have a different approach. We are a private nonprofit, and so we do not euthanize for time or space. However, if an animal, whether they've just arrived with it or whether they develop this over the course of their care, any medical issues or behavioral issues that prevent them from living a happy life with a family, say severe aggression, for example, or if there's an animal that we cannot place into one of our hospice homes because they are suffering, we make that tough decision to euthanize. It's hard, no matter how you slice it. It breaks the hearts of every human, everyone who works at a shelter, everybody in the community. Our hearts all break and cry. So again, all I can do is ask the public for help. I know everyone's heard this, but if now's the time to adopt, please adopt. If you can open up your home and be a foster, even temporarily, please foster. If you're able to make a gift, please give. It's so important to help the animals in our community and beyond. And it's going to take a big village.
Yeah. And it is a community issue, right? Because, for one, if you're an animal lover and you want to have an animal, you want to have a healthy animal, you want to have animals available if you want to be able to adopt, and so to have that option. On the other side of the spectrum, if you're not a big animal lover, or you also don't want to have a lot of strays on your street, that can be a safety issue, a health issue. So it is a full community problem where we all need to pay attention to this. How do you, there's got to be difficulty as well with getting that message out to folks to continue to keep you in their thoughts when they're thinking about making donations and to support. What would you like to ask the community?
Sure. Just if you have a moment to take a look at your local animal welfare organization, your local animal shelter, please do. Whether that's the SPCA of Texas, we're at spca.org. Take a look at different people's websites, get to know them, what they do, keep that compassion in your heart. Everybody here that works at an animal shelter, whether it's a municipal shelter, a private shelter, we have a heart that pumps blood, and that means we can have a broken one too. So if you have the ability, please give of your time, of your financial assistance, and of your home for a new family member. The best part about bringing that new family member home is that what a lifetime of amazing love. So I get it. It is hard out there. The economy is tough. A lot of apartments, it's very expensive to have animals. Right. Many apartments don't allow large dogs. I know there's so many things stacked against us sometimes. But at the end of the day, even just that love and compassion to help in any way you can is an amazing gift.
That is Maura Davies with the SPCA of Texas. Did you have anything else you'd want to add about this topic or educate us on?
I think we covered so much great information. Again, if people have questions about the work that the SPCA of Texas does, our website is spca.org, and or check out any of the other amazing groups in North Texas and beyond that are out there doing incredible work every single day.
Maura Davies with the SPCA of Texas on today's Ask the Expert. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you so much.